and people who can drink really well and drug very well, you've got a community that's all to your taking.
Oh, yeah.
Abandoned. Right. So they're very happy, this young couple, in that lifestyle. And again, we understand that we never knew them, but we understand that they got very involved in also trying to help the folks that were still there that needed food and animals and all the stuff that was going on you didn't hear in the news. Okay, so they're known as Zach and Addie. And that's all you have to know is those first names. I have no idea even the last names because they become so famous. The reason they become famous is after Katrina happened, then when Life came back to the city, they had to join Life again. Well, they had it perfect when they were in an abandoned community. But once Life came back, they had to deal with Life. And they weren't doing very well with it as alcoholics, drug addicts, and all the rest that goes with it. Trying to just shorten that story, he killed her in our apartment.
Oh, wow.
In their apartment. Right, he killed her. But he didn't only kill her. It is absolutely the most disgusting. And they've made it famous now. People have written huge books. They're making movies about this. He dismembered her. He then left her in that apartment, we understand, for 12 days, turned up the air conditioning, and then went on his binge, and then went to our local hotel, one of our finest, went to the top of it, was having drinks at the top of this hotel, outdoor, what have you, and then our understanding is walked over to the edge of it and jumped. Committed suicide. Right.
Sounds like it sounds almost like he was possessed.
Yes.
And that's one thing is when I had my experiences, Alta being a Native American, I came in and, I started the burn, with the incense and everything, and I spoke out loud, hey, if you're, whoever you are, smudging the house
right.
and blessing the house with positive energy. And, I said, whoever's here, you don't have to go. As long as you don't bother us, leave us alone. We'll leave you alone, and we'll have a happy life, And I think that's one thing, maybe he wasn't in touch with his spiritual side and not able to handle
whatever it was
negative
all about.
energy.
I mean, we're not here to try
right.
to diagnose either. We're just, repeating it as we understand it.
Well,
he left it when he left a note for the detectives when they got to his, smashed body. He's directing them to our apartment. They get to that apartment. He has written all over the walls in graffiti and I don't know, blood and feces, and it just sounds absolutely unbelievable. Because this was he was a well-liked person who had spent time in Afghanistan, military. So now what we understand is people who've written books about this experience, what happened with these people, they're all blaming it on Afghanistan. That he came back out of Desert Storm period and, lost his marbles.
Well, no,
she was cooking on the stove.
I really think what happened is that area, your apartment was possessed. And it was, a lot of these, what happens is that they wait for people that have either emotional problems or they're down
right.
or mental issues. And that's when they seem to attack the person and to try to take control of that person if they have those type of issues. So that's probably what they, being a drug addict and alcoholic and going through maybe some emotional things from Afghanistan, all of it combined, they actually probably possessed him. You're lucky you got out of that apartment. You might not be talking to us right now.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah, we left.
And again, being naive, I think, helped us a great deal to stay in that mindset, not get caught in anything other than just stay focused on getting out of that apartment, away from that environment. And then where we knew that we would at least enjoy our experience in living in the French Quarter, well, that took place. It didn't take long. There's high-strangeness involved in everything about us. We take responsibility for our own actions and our decisions and this and that. But again, this story, lots of high-strangeness. So relatively, just when we needed a change more than ever, that change came. An apartment in the middle of the quarter in a very desirable area that's now so expensive we can't even think about it, it became available to us. And without details, it's magnificent. It's furnished. It's a townhouse, and the furniture is from the 16th and 17th century.
Oh, wow.
I mean, it looks like something straight out of a castle. We've got marble fireplaces. We've got a grand piano. We've got crystal chandelier in the bathroom. It's crazy. And it was afforded to us at a very, I won't even tell you, it's embarrassing, amount of rent each month that was so low that I knew some hidden hand was involved in this. We move in immediately. Oh, are we happy? We've got the balcony. It's the kind of place you always see on television with Mardi Gras and everybody hanging off the balconies. That's where we're at.
Oh, wow.
Well, we're just so happy with ourselves we can't see straight. We're both working at this point. We're doing really well and coming along and becoming a part of this community. French Quarter is about 13 blocks square, and it's its own world. And we're becoming a part of that. And then, now we're in 1997. I'm about to have my 40th birthday. Chad, at that point, is 30. My mom has left Louisiana some years back, gone back to Arkansas. She's in fairly poor health. She's alone and misses us, and we miss her. So she's going to come for my birthday and relocate. We pre-rented her a mother-in-law cottage in a courtyard of this beautiful place we were living. Life was looking just perfect. That was not meant to be. She, essentially, the truth is, and I mean, can't make any of this up, my mother died on my birthday, literally to the minute I'm born. My mom crossed. This happened before she could leave Little Rock. So Chad and I are beyond devastated. Our world has collapsed. Mine's absolutely collapsed. Chad's in a bad state, but he's doing much better than I am. We've got to catch a plane. We've got to go there. I've got to handle stuff I don't even understand what I'm dealing with. We go through all of that experience handling my mom's estate. We get everything transferred back to the French Quarter where we're living. We've got to try to resume life again. I'm struggling a lot. So, lots going on in that experience with the inheritance, and we had, I'll just put it out there, we had, no doubt to me, a haunted telephone. It was absolutely haunted. And, just one bizarreness after another. Now, we're not having fun with any of it anymore because I am devastated, and Chad's struggling. We just miss my mom. So, a few months later, about 3 months, I say later, it was around September. My birthday's in May. I'm working in a shop in the Quarter that was a family-owned business. They started their business in 1929. At that point, they had been 70 years into business. They kept it in the family. They ran a very tight ship. And they sold expensive jewelry, crystals, antiques to some degree. But for the most part, we were known for readings. I'm a reader. They brought me on board because they knew I was good at what I did. That's all that I'll say about that. I've never used any of this opportunity to ever try to, bring that part of my life into the story. But it was a very important part at that point because this is what I'm doing for a living. I'm making a very nice name for myself, if you will, and very nice connections. They hired a young woman. At that time, she was 24. She's known as Christine in the book that we've since published. She's never been married, no children. So now we've got her 24, Chad 30, I've just turned 40. She's tall, slender, long blonde hair, very attractive, very gregarious, has a beautiful laugh, and also one that I would say, in the way I try to describe her, she's given us permission to speak on her behalf, by the way. She has made up her mind she was never going to be public about these things that happened to us, but gave us permission. I got that in writing from her as well. She's somebody I've always described as a very, in my mind, kind of a black-white sort of person. Not a whole lot in the middle. She's just a very good person who also, her highest interest seemed at the time back then And then she's followed through all these years later with education. She's interested in saving the earth and children and animals. Those are her priorities. She then has gone on, since we've known her, to get a degree in environmental science. So just to give you an idea, she's followed through with her truths. Well, at this time, she's just a happy-go-lucky, free, single, pretty young woman in the shop. She asked me, she knew that we were suffering, Chad and I, over the death of my mom. She asked me one night if I wanted to go out after work into the quarter and have dinner and drinks. We'd never done it. I said, yes. I said, let's call Chad. I know he'd love to join us. We only lived a couple blocks from the shop. We call Chad. He gets changed, dressed up, what have you, and he meets us over there. He walks over. Everything's done on foot in the quarter. So we step out of the shop. She's got to lock the door. She's got to do her little duties at the end of the night. Our night starts, as far as I'm concerned, basically around 9:30. Chad's nodding his head. We step out of the shop, the three of us, and we have no plans. It's going to be spontaneous. We're just going to go anywhere we care to, do as we please. I remember taking note of it as soon as we stepped out of the shop, that the energy felt weird. It felt weird. Now, I'm not somebody who walks around and talks like that. I may be considered a reader, but I don't talk like that out. You know, it's not my style talking about energy necessarily like that. But I did when we stepped out of the shop because it felt odd. I don't even know how to describe that, but I always remind folks, you know your own hoods. You know your neighborhood. You know what it feels like. And if it feels different, it feels different. And that's how it felt. Both of them acknowledged that they agreed with me. So I'm not sounding as crazy as I'm feeling after I said it. Okay, well, we don't think too much about it, and we just take off. We're going to go out and try to have a good night. We start on Bourbon Street, the famous Bourbon Street. We're going to start on one end of it and just work ourselves across the quarter. I'll have Chad pick it up from there because Chad worked at the first nightclub restaurant that we went to years prior. So we both know this area very well.
Yeah, we had, again, you know, it felt really weird. There was not a lot of people out on the street, which is crazy. You know, this is 9:30 at night. This is when it starts getting busy. There was a few stragglers, but
barely.
Just not very many people out on the street. We stop at this first place we stop at is a place I used to work at. We knew the band there. We knew, you know, a lot of the wait staff, the owner, the manager, bartenders, you know.
Everyone.
So, you know, we were going to start there. Well, we get there, and there's only one person in the whole restaurant, and he was the manager. And he was bartending and waiting, and now there's no patrons either, or no customers, you know, so
right.
It was
there's
just very strange.
There.
You know, it was like
no customers, no wait staff, nobody. There's nobody. Go ahead, Chad.
So, you know, we're looking at him like, you know, where is everybody? And he's like, yeah, I don't know. It's kind of crazy. And he ends up, we didn't know that, but he was a Mardi Gras Indian. And, you know, they dress up in these very flamboyant, lots of big, you know, ostrich feathers and they have big, huge costumes, their regalia. But he had his upstairs, and he knew Alta was Native American, so he takes us upstairs, and
which is bizarre because we've known him for years and never knew that part of him. But now all of a sudden he wants to take us upstairs to the nightclub to show us his regalia. This is so weird.
Well, it's different sounding.
There. I'm sorry?
I said it's different sounding.
Yeah, so anyway, we go up, you know, we enjoyed that. We come back downstairs, and, you know, we're just ready to go on. You know, we're trying to find someplace, you know, a little more lively, you know.
We're trying to find someplace with humans.
Yeah, with other people to hang out with and all. We stop at 2 or 3 different places walking towards, two different places walking towards more of the local part of the French Quarter, expecting, if the tourists aren't there, then we'll go to where the locals hang out. And we stopped